So we're here today in the Nosy Crow studios with Philip Ardagh and Axel Scheffler, who are the creators of The Grunts in Trouble. And we're going to be talking about their forthcoming publication in Australia and New Zealand.
Hello Australia.
Hello New Zealand.
I thought, Philip, it would be helpful for all your fans in Australia and New Zealand if you could tell us who or what are the Grunts.
The Grunts aren't a what, they're a who. And there's Mr Grunt, who is a male grunt, and there's Mrs Grunt, who is a female grunt, and they're married, hence the Mr and Mrs. And they have, I would say, an adopted son called Sonny, but they didn't adopt him through conventional means. I think they technically probably kidnapped him, because one day Mr Grunt was out and about and he saw a baby hanging by its ears from a washing line, and he knew that Mrs Grunt particularly wanted a child, so he swiped one, and she knew that boys should be dressed in blue, so she got one of her old dresses, some of Mr Grunt's ink, and mixed it all together and gave him a lovely blue dress, and now he's one of the family. I should say the Grunts are pretty grubby. Mr Grunt has a belt that's made of two separate belts sewn together, and Sonny, as well as his lovely blue dress, has one slip-on shoe and one lace-up shoe, and I think you'd see them coming, put it that way.
Thank you. As you describe this, you give us a very strong sort of visual sense, and I was wondering whether you'd imagined Axel's drawings from the beginning.
Now, I should say that I really, really wanted to work with Axel. I've wanted to work with him for a long time. He's refused to clean my windows or shampoo my carpet, so I thought maybe we could work together in a sort of author-illustrator capacity. So I very much wanted to work with Axel, but I didn't go in with thinking I would really hope that he will do it like this, or I will speak to him and ask him to do it like this, because I wanted Axel to bring his Axeliness to the project. So I wrote it and had my images in my mind, and then he had it, and then he could see what he could make of it, and that would just add another dimension to it. So I wasn't really saying, here's how it should be, but what can you do with it?
Okay, so Axel, can you tell us a little bit about the process of illustrating The Grunts in Trouble?
Well, basically I get the story, I read it, and then start making some sketches. First I try to think what the characters should look like, and I do that on paper, the thinking. And then I get a little bit of help by the editor to think about which scenes I should illustrate. And then I do some sketches and we talk about those, and then I can carry on doing the finished artwork. And
was there anything that Philip wrote about that you found difficult to draw, or indeed resented him for creating?
There's always things authors put into, I think, just their evil spirit to challenge and annoy the illustrators. But there were a lot of details that I had to concentrate on, like which sort of shoes and the belts. And there's so many details that I described that should be in the drawings. I hope I got it right. And there's the editor always to have another glance at these things. And there are things like that vehicle, the Grunts travel in, which is a real challenge, which is made out of lots of bits of scrap and.
Which was the caravan, wasn't it? I created this caravan that had all these different elements: motorbike, sidecar, and a bit of an ice cream van and things in there.
And then you have to sort of imagine there should be a whole family in there, and it's drawn by an elephant, and some things are really
don't mention the elephant. Sorry, could I say, please pretend you didn't hear him mention the elephant, because that's a secret. Thank you.
So there's a beep.
Yes, there's a big beep in there.
And so yeah, lots of scale problems, and I think illustrators always cheat a little bit with sort of the drawings have their own logic, and hopefully it works on paper.
Could I just say, I just think that's a fantastic phrase, because I think that really sums it up. Drawing has its own logic, and each illustrator brings their own logic to a project. You might have somebody, there might be another illustrator who took a very mathematical and very clinical approach to it and would have produced something that worked for them. But what I love about Axel is his logic is crazy and weird in a different way to my writing being a bit weird, but bring it together and you get an extra dimension to both elements.
And nothing would work in the real world.
No, absolutely not. We'd never work in the real world. Thank heavens we get paid to do what we do. So, thank you.
I wonder if you could tell us why you think that the series, The Grunts, and specifically The Grunts in Trouble, will appeal to children in Australia and New Zealand?
Well, I'm very fortunate that my Eddie Dickens series and my Unlikely Exploits series have been published in Australia before and in New Zealand, and I've been fortunate enough to go over to both countries, and as well as being extraordinarily good looking, I found that the children in Australia and New Zealand have impeccable taste when it comes to choosing children's books, and obviously as one of the greatest writers of my generation, they will see the beauty of my prose, so what's not to like, really?
Thank you. And Axel, what's your experience, or perhaps lack of it, of Australia and New Zealand?
Well, I haven't been to Australia or New Zealand myself, but Julia Donaldson has been there. She's been doing events, and she told me that the books that we've done together that they are very successful there, and they have lots of fans. And I hope that my first collaboration with Philip will meet readers there.
Will surpass their expectations.
Will surpass.
There's a lot of love in this room.